Hey guys. Okay, so we're on the last section of this chapter of circles. We're going to talk about 12.5, which is equations of circles. So if I were to give you guys a picture of a circle on a graph, how do you write the equation of it? So in order to write the equation of a circle, you need to know two things. One is the center, and a lot of times you can sort of eyeball it on the graph, or it'll be given to you, or you might just have to count it out. So whatever that coordinate is, we just use the letters H and K to represent the numbers. And then you also need to know the radius of the circle. So again, you might have to count it, or it might be given to you, or you might have to use distance formula to find the radius if you're really not sure what it is. So the equation for finding, or for the equation of a circle is this right here. You'll notice it looks like the Pythagorean theorem, and that's because it's from the Pythagorean theorem. It's the group x minus h squared plus the other group, y minus k squared, equals r squared. And again, the h, the k, and the r, those are just the numbers from the center and the radius. So let's go ahead and practice some examples using this equation. So for example 1, we're going to write the standard equation of a circle shown. So we need to know two things. We need to know the center, because that's our HK, and then we need to know the radius, which is our R. So looking at this picture, you can count it out, but you can tell that the center is right here at the origin, which would end up being 0, 0. And the radius, I'll just go straight across, is going to be a length of 2. So our center is 0, 0. Our radius is 2. And then I'm just going to rewrite the general equation, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And we're simply just plugging in everything we know and then just kind of simplifying. So my h is 0. My k is also 0. And my r is 2 squared. So wherever you can simplify, simplify. X minus 0, that's just x. So this is really just x squared. Same with y minus 0, that's just y squared. And then 2 squared is 4. So that is the equation of this circle. All right, let's take a look at example 2. So this one doesn't give you a picture. It says write the standard equation of a circle with center 0, -5 and radius 3.7. So it gives us everything. Here's our center, it's our HK. Here's our radius, it's our R. Again, I'm just going to plug everything into the equation. So x minus h, which is 0, plus y minus k, which is -5, and your radius is going to be squared. So notice how we have double negatives, so you just got to look out for that. Again, we're just going to simplify. X minus 0, that's just x. For this group, though, I'm going to turn this into addition. So I'm still going to keep it in parentheses and the square on the outside. And then now we're just going to square 3.7, which gives you 13.69. And that's your answer. Okay, example 3, we are going to identify the center and the radius of the circle. So this one's a little bit backwards because I give you the equation and we're trying to find center and radius. So remember, center is that HK, and then your radius is the R. So let's take a look at where H and K would be. Well, I know my H is supposed to be over here, and I know this is my K, because this is supposed to be x minus h squared, and then this is y minus k squared, and I know this is my r squared. So working backwards, I usually start with the radius. What's my r squared? Well, you have to think about what number squared gives you 9, or basically what's the square root of 9. So that's going to be 3. And now we have to talk about our center, our h and k. Well, since there is no number over here next to my x, what does that tell me about my h? Well, it means my h has to be 0. And then what about my k? Well, my k is going to be whatever number is being subtracted from the y. So that is 4. So those are the answers. Your center is 0, 4, and your radius is 3. Let's do one more like this. So for example 4, identify the center and the radius. So again, I'm just going to sort of write out the general equation underneath this, just to kind of compare. Okay, so let's start with the radius. So in this equation, my last number is 4. So again, I have to think about, okay, what number, if I square root it, is going to give me the radius if my answer here is 4. So my radius is going to have to be 2. 2 squared will give me 4. And then I got to talk about my h and k. So you got to be careful here with the h, because you'll notice that here I have a positive 1, but the equation is x minus h. So does that mean my h is a positive 1, or does it mean it's a negative 1? It's going to be a negative 1, because in order for this to turn into a positive 1, my h had to start off as negative, so that there's double negatives when you plug it into the equation. And then when I look at my k, since they both say minus and minus, just whatever that number is, which is just 1, that is my k. So center is negative 1, 1, and radius is 2. So just be careful with those plus signs. All right, example 5. The point negative 3, 4 is on a circle with a center of negative 1, 2. We're going to write the standard equation of the center. So again, you just need to know 2 things. You need to know the center of the circle. You also need to know the radius of the circle. So according to this info, we're given the center, negative 1, 2. And if you look here on the picture, you know, it's drawn through. So that's done. Now we need to know the radius. Okay. So if I look at the picture, if I try to go straight across to count the radius, you'll notice it doesn't quite land on a point on the coordinate plane. So I can't really just count it, because I don't quite know what that length is. But since it gave us this random point, negative 3, 4, that's on the circle, we can figure out the radius using those 2 points. So how do we figure out the radius? I mentioned this on the first slide. If you can't count it, you'll have to do distance formula. So using distance formula, we're going to subtract our x's, square them, and then we're going to subtract our y's and square them. So I'll just start with this point first, negative 3, 4, and then I'll subtract the negative 1, 2 from it. So starting with the y, I'll do 4 minus 2 squared, and then with the x's, you could do negative 3 minus negative 1 squared. Again, it doesn't matter if you start with the x's or the y's. And just watch out for double negatives. So this, you can plug all into your calculator, or if you want to do it by hand, this will end up being a 2 squared. This is really addition, so this would be negative 2 squared. So you're going to end up getting 2 squared, which is 4, plus negative 2 squared, which is also 4. You're going to get the square root of 8. Do not turn it into a decimal. Leave it as the square root of 8. Okay, so that is your radius. Now we're just going to plug it into the equation, and then we are simplifying, and we'll be done. So we're going to say x minus my h, which is going to be negative 1, and then y minus my k, which is 2, and then I'm going to take my radius, which is the square root of 8. Notice how I'm putting it in parentheses, and I'm going to square it. So now we just got to simplify. X minus negative 1 is really addition. Y minus 2 just stays the same. And when you square negative 8, it's really negative, square root of 8, excuse me, you're going to have square root of 8 times another square root of 8, which is square root of 64, which just turns into 8. So this is actually your final answer. Okay, I think we have one more. So this one does not give you a picture. It says the diameter of a circle has endpoints at 3, 6, and -1, -4. Write the standard equation of the circle. So again, we just need to figure out the center of this circle and the radius of this circle. Even though it doesn't give you a picture, feel free to just kind of sketch a picture to get an idea of what's happening here. So this is not going to be an actual representation of the picture, but at least it'll give me an idea. It says I have a diameter, so that means I have a segment that's going through the center, and I know like one end is 3, 6, and the other end is -1, -4. So we got to figure out the center. We also need to figure out the radius. So this is actually going to take us a little bit more work, not too much work though. How do you think we can find the center? Let's just start with that. So think of all the formulas you've learned this year. You've got one endpoint, you've got another endpoint, you're trying to find the middle. That's what the center is. You are going to have to do midpoint formula. So, midpoint formula is when you add your x's, divide by 2, add your y's, divide by 2. So let's add our x's. 3 plus -1, and then our y's would be 6 plus -4. Okay, I'll just go straight across here. So 3 plus -1, that is 2 over 2. 6 plus -4, that would be, again, 2 over 2. So this is 1, 1. So there's our center. Okay. So now we know the center is 1, 1. I'll just have to fill it in here. How do you think we could find the radius? Well, again, we'll have to do distance formula. And for the distance formula, you can pick any 2 points. I would probably pick the positive number, so I would pick maybe a 3, 6, and 1, 1. And that'll help us find the radius. So it does not matter if you start with x's or y's. Just make sure you're subtracting them. So let's say I start with the y's, and I'll start with 3, 6 first. So with the y's, I'll do 6 minus 1. And then with the x's, we'll do 3 minus 1. I'll just do it by hand. So this will give you 5 squared. This will give you 2 squared. So this will give you 25 plus 4. And remember, do not make it a decimal. Leave it as a square root. Square root of 29. And now we're just going to plug all this into the equation of a circle. So x minus h, which is 1, plus y minus k, which is 1, equals your radius. Notice how I'm putting it in parentheses, squared. Okay, so the only thing that needs to be simplified is that square root of 29. So the square root of 29 squared will give you the square root of 841, but the square root of 841 turns into 29. So there is your final answer. Okay, so that is it. We are just going to start reviewing for your test, which is Friday. Let me know if you guys have questions. Have a good night.